Welcome back into another edition of Star V Sundays. We might as well just call this the Star V podcast, Joe. We're just, it's not necessarily every Sunday, but going live with this one on a Monday night. So thank you to everybody that's been tuning in throughout the season, and obviously Vanderbilt season concluded with a win over Tennessee on Saturday alongside Joe Bulovas. I'm Billy Derrick, and today we're happy to be joined by Vanderbilt defensive back Jordan Matthews, Baton Rouge native. Course, transferred in from Tennessee, so obviously was a fulfilling victory for him. And Jordan, I can't thank you enough for taking the time with us, man.
Appreciate you, Billy.
Well, I want to start with, before you even got to Tennessee, just growing up in Baton Rouge. Joe talks about it all the time. He loves going back home. What was it like growing up in Baton Rouge? In the middle, that's the middle of the SEC, really. I mean, you talk about Alabama, LSU, Georgia. You kind of grew up around that. What was that like, and kind of your recruiting process in that high school period for you before you even got to college?
Yeah. So honestly, growing up in Baton Rouge, you're surrounded by it. You're seeing it every Saturday. LSU is just all over. So I was definitely an LSU fan growing up. My dad went to LSU for 4 years, graduated from there, went to Southern University in Baton Rouge also. And a bunch of my dad's friends went there. So that's all you kind of grow up around and talk about while you're living in Baton Rouge. But when I was growing up and I started getting recruited in high school, my dad made sure to tell me to just weigh your options out and kind of be different, just like don't follow the wave of everybody in Baton Rouge that gets recruited. Just do something different. And if that leads you to LSU, then you could go there, but just follow your heart and actually take the time to weigh your options. So when it came down to it, my top three ended up being Tennessee, Michigan, and Texas. So those three were my top three, and I ended up picking Tennessee just because they were showing me the most love from day one. I saw the vision of me playing early there, and it was just like a home atmosphere at the time. So that was really kind of my growing up process and kind of what how I chose Tennessee.
Man, that's interesting because for people that maybe aren't familiar with the Vanderbilt Tennessee rivalry, Vanderbilt people obviously can't stand Tennessee, and typically the same way around. But I do want to give Joe a chance to kind of hop in. But I think that's, Joe, to me the coolest part of this is that recruited by Michigan, Texas, Tennessee, lands at Tennessee, but now at Vanderbilt. And obviously at the time, Joe, there maybe was some thought of, oh, hey, who's this guy coming from Tennessee? That's not something that typically happens. But now I reap the reward, Vandy 10-2, and Joe, I think that's the coolest part of Jordan's story.
Yeah, man. Obviously, I think everybody's gonna kind of see Jordan and say, "Oh man, he made the jump from Tennessee to Vandy," and I made that jump too. Wait, a few years ago. It feels like yesterday, but everybody remembers it for a little bit longer ago. But um, Jordan's one hell of a player and is an even better person. I'd like to kind of so for everybody out there, kind of walk us through what was your mindset as a player, and how is that kind of or I guess, how have you evolved as a player from being that senior in high school out of Baton Rouge and playing all those guys at a high level, knowing not everybody's you're going to see in the SEC, but there are some guys that you ended up playing with somewhere along the way or playing against. But how did you develop, or how would you characterize your development from maybe say a 17-year-old Jordan Matthews to present day Jordan Matthews?
Yeah. So me coming in Tennessee, I was definitely on my high horse. I was thinking, I'm gonna go in, earn a spot, get some playing time, and just show my skills. So obviously, when you get to college, you get some bumps in the road, and that's just a part of it. That's a part of life. So I did learn a lot at Tennessee, though, like mentally, physically, I've grown, even spiritually, like through, what I'm saying, some those obstacles I've met at Tennessee with some playing time, like it definitely put me closer to God. And And I really thank him for, letting me in and just getting closer to him each and every day. So that's really how I've grown these past couple of years, just spiritually, getting closer to God, mentally, being tough, talking to my dad, that's been through it before, and a bunch of coaches at Tennessee that's been through it, just helping me along the way. And then physically, both the strength staffs at both of the schools are like top tier. They're SEC strength staff, so they both had me prepared to play on the field. So that's how I say I've grown.
Well,
So
man,
then,
to add,
yeah, go ahead.
if you don't mind, Billy, to add on to that, you mentioned your dad being a big influence on you. Obviously, he had a really cool football story, and you and I have talked about that a couple times. But shed some light on that. How your dad was a role model for you, not just as a football player, but as a young man.
Yeah. So my dad, like I said before, my dad played 4 years at LSU, graduated, and then played 1 year at Southern University. So, like he's been through the recruitment process, he's been through the college, he's been through the playing time situations, he's just been through everything, and him playing and going through that is just a blessing to. It's just a blessing to have him in my life. To use him as a role model, to use him to ask any question I have, even if it's like off the field, like maybe even with girls. I ask him stuff about girls sometimes, just like juggling that life and then the football life. It gets kind of hectic sometimes. And then my big brother, I don't know, my big brother, not too many of you guys know, but he's played at Louisiana Tech for 3 years, and he went to McNeese State University in Louisiana and played 2 years there. And he was an all-conference guy, all-conference wide receiver there, and is playing for the DC Defenders now in the UFL. So me just even him giving me advice for stuff like that, it's just been a blessing to me. And I just come from a great pedigree of great athletes. So I'm glad to have that.
Yeah, you got some good genes in your system, man.
Yeah.
All a
And then
bunch of ballers.
Yeah, and then my little sister, Lauren Matthews, she's playing at Xavier University in New Orleans for volleyball on a volleyball scholarship. So I'm just blessed, man.
Well, I see where, I mean, you were a top 5 finisher as a junior in high school in Louisiana in the 100 and 200 meters you had PRs of 10.6 and then 21.2 in the 200, which 10.6 is ridiculous in the 100. 21.2 is even more ridiculous in the 200. Was there a point in your career in high school where, I'm sure you played high school football throughout your time there, and you played football throughout your, life, but was track, I mean, how important was track to you as well? Because it feels like that is something that people maybe don't realize about you, just your pure speed. And we definitely saw it in a couple of games.
Yeah, man, I ain't gonna lie. That's my second love. I really love track. From a young age, I remember my dad telling me, and I hated when he said this. He was like, "Jordan, I'm putting you in track," and I was crying. I didn't want to do it. I was like 7 years old. I wanted to be like every other football player, just play football. So, I ended up falling in love with it my first year. I ended up making it to the Junior Olympics on the national stage my first year, and just from 7 years old all the way up to high school, I was very successful in it. God blessed me to have great speed, and I get that from my dad and the pedigree I've been blessed with. So it's just, I feel like track is definitely a big part in football. I think whoever plays football should run track. It definitely helps in the long run, and it definitely helped us win a few games this year. So I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about, Joe, the play I remember was the track down. Was that Missouri? I think that was the Missouri game. Where,
LSU.
That was LSU. That's right. LSU. I mean, LSU easily, they could have scored there, and I forget what the score was at the time, but it was a huge field goal hold late in that game, Joe. And I mean, especially playing against a team like LSU. I mean, you've had a couple of times to go play in Neyland, and then LSU team, an LSU team that, obviously playing against your home state team. So Joe, yeah. I recognized that. I was like, okay,
Yeah,
this kid is,
just so
he's
you
got
know,
legit feet.
when we saw that happen, you got some mad respect from the former players I was sitting with, watching you track down that guy. I was like, yeah, that's a guy that's got heart, and what that guy can fly. So
Mhm.
that was really impressive. But no, no, obviously, you know, some of the best football players I've been around were track guys in high school or did it at some point and did it to somewhat of a serious extent. So you certainly showed those wheels tracking that cat down for LSU. That was fun to watch. Um, but man, tell me a little bit about like, you know, when you got to Tennessee, obviously there's a maturation point from when you came to high school to you know your first couple of years of college. What made you want, not necessarily want, but what was the deciding factor to decide to come over to West End and play for Coach Lee?
Yeah. So I always tell people this. Coach Jamal Richardson, my cornerbacks coach here, he was ultimately the deciding factor on me coming here, and it's only because as soon as I hit the portal, he called me from day one. He was like, Jordan, you really have a chance on playing here. I really believe in you. I see the talent. I see the type of guy you are. I see your pedigree in everything, and I feel like you can be the guy here and to make plays for us. So Coach Rich from day one, he has, you know, he's been on he was number one for day one, and then obviously the SEC. I always wanted to play in the SEC ever since I've been a kid. So that was a big factor, and then just Nashville. Nashville is a great thriving city, and I'm a business management major, so just and I've talked to Joe about this too, just like getting with some alumni, getting with Candace Lee, the athletic director, and just it's so many connections you can make it here at Vandy, with it being a top tier school, and the degree also will take you a long ways from just, you know, just being a straight A student here. So it's really like twofold. It's more of me being a great player on the field and showcase my talent in the SEC, and then me getting a great degree at Vandy. So I'm blessed to be here.
Well,
I
man, we're
want to take
blessed
it a
to
step
have you.
further. Yeah, absolutely. I want to take a step further with Coach Richardson. Just a great dude, and in that corner room, you can really go down the list of Martell Height, Marlon Jones, Colby Taylor, Mark Davis, Jalen Lackey. I mean, you can go on and on in that room of guys that have played this year and guys that have contributed. And yeah, that's an older room, but you know, you being a junior, a guy that still has a lot of football to be played. Caden Daniels, a young freshman who's been working in that room as well. Lackey's a sophomore. Just tell us a little bit about that room, your relationship with the guys, kind of how you were able to form that, and then just how big of a part Coach Richardson is in kind of creating that camaraderie and that competition.
So honestly, I'm gonna say this. I feel like we're the best. I feel like we're the best secondary in the country. That's my opinion. I know I've said it in an interview before, and I still stand on it to this day. So I feel like that, and Coach Richardson, I feel like he's all of this year he's took the time to groom us to make us better, give us tidbits, and like perfect our technique. It's just been great to see us, grow this year. Even from the first game, I feel like it's been a bunch of growth from the cornerback room, and each one of those guys that you name has made tremendous leaps and bounds, and I feel like we can put any one of us out there and we'll make a play. So that's how I feel about it, and I'm just so blessed to be here in this room. I just thank God for me being a part of something great like this.
Yeah, that room. I mean, you guys have grown. To me, you talk about the growth because you know Clark Lee last year had talked after the season that hey, this is an area we've got to grow. We've got to improve our play, whether it's speed or just being able to physically defend. You're in the SEC, you know this. Jordan playing at Tennessee and your experience, you know that some of the best, most talented players and most talented skill players in the country. So just with this season, where were you guys able to grow the most when it comes to defending an LSU offense or that Auburn offense in Tennessee this week? Where have you guys been able to take those steps from day one, like you said, and now, now that the season's over?
I would say mostly our communication as a secondary. I feel like us communicating with the safety on our side, and even with like the whole back end, even Randy Fournette, number 2, just having communication throughout the whole back end, us being on the same page. And I would like to shed some light on Coach Shoup. Coach Shoup, we brought him in. He's a vet. He's been in the coaching industry for a minute, and he's seen a lot of football. And we get in extra meetings every week with him on just seeing different formations that we're going to get that week, different route schemes, route combinations that we're going to get. So I just feel like us being all on the same page, and us expecting routes out of certain formations, and just us knowing that as we've grown leaps and bounds in those 2 areas.
Well, man, I'll kind of flip it to, the actual week of prep a little bit. And throughout the regular season, you guys have lined up against some really great offenses and some ones that have been historically really, really solid and may have not had the best year so far. But in your opinion, in your weeks of prep from weeks 1 through 12, which was the hardest offense to game plan for, or maybe a top 2?
I would say to game plan for, I'd probably have Tennessee probably is going to be one of them, just because of the athletes in that room, that receiver room, because they're just even if the play doesn't go as planned, I feel like they're good enough athletes to make a play on the ball. Like
they got some studs over there.
Yeah, like number 17, Chris Brazzell. He's like, Joey will just throw it up and he'll go catch the ball. Braylon Staley, he's a great slot receiver, knows how to get open. And Mike Matthews, he's a great talent too. So Tennessee's definitely been one of them we had to really game plan for. And honestly, LSU was a solid pre-contest in my opinion. They had a bunch of guys with speed over there. Breon Brown, Tre'Davious Green is a great talent, as you guys know. And then just a bunch of other guys over there that I know. So I'll say those 2.
I want to flip it, Joe. That's a good question because, you can't say Vanderbilt's offense, but I wouldn't be surprised if
you see it every day in practice. Doesn't count.
Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, and it's probably the linebackers. Like if you were a line, I mean, I could imagine being a linebacker facing this Vanderbilt offense. But in practice, like what is that like for you guys? And mostly fall camp, because you guys are really competing. Obviously you're not. There's not as much competition throughout those game week preps. But like, what is that like going up against that Vanderbilt offense?
Man, it's great. I ain't gonna lie. I honestly feel like we have the best offense, all around offense in the nation right now. With Diego at quarterback, you got MK in the backfield with City Alexander, James L. Lassiter, and then you got the Union up front. Those guys are stacked. Jordan White just won the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. Then you got Junior Sherrill, Trey Richardson, Tristan Brown, Richie Hoskins. It's just like, I feel like you go down the line of our offense and it's like we're pretty stacked at every position and everybody's producing really well. So I feel like just going up against those guys every day for a year now has made me a better player. Even Diego, me and Diego laugh about it all the time. He tested me in the spring and fall camp every day at practice, and it just I took some L's, I took some W's. It's just I love that camaraderie we have and that competition we have every day, and it just made us better.
So if you had to pick, okay, let's flip positions here. So if you're playing receiver, which DB in the starting rotation right now would you put on roller skates?
On roller skates? Ooh.
And it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be serious either. It can be a total joke. But who would you like to, run a stutter on?
I'll probably say, man, he might be mad at me. I'll probably have to say KT, Kobe Taylor.
Oh, he'd definitely be smack talking you after that too.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's why I picked him, because we definitely will be talking, and it'll be a nice little competition. But yeah, I'll probably say him.
Man,
did you play a decent amount of receiver?
When I was younger, I did. In Little League, everybody played all the positions, but
not Joe. He wasn't talented enough to play some of those positions.
You said who?
Not Joe. Not me.
I
didn't move like that, brother.
Yeah. But yeah, I was fortunate to play some receiver.
Okay.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, I just the DBs that I played with in high school and college, like a good bit of them played receiver for a good portion of that. Hell, there were a good number of guys, I think even at Alabama, that switched. They were DB and they ended up switching to receiver or receiver to DB. They hated it at the time. They thought it was insulting. Whatever position switch that they made. And then they ended up going to be like a draft pick or something like that. So how bad really was it, pal? At the time. But I was just curious if you had played a good bit of receiver too.
And you got guys like Martell Height. Man, he could go both ways. And he honestly, I think he played straight receiver when he was in high school. But it definitely made him better at the DB position, with like his catch radius, him going up and get the ball. And just him knowing what he's about to get from the receiver. I feel like it just goes hand in hand if you play receiver. So, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Diego and kind of texting him, competing with him, and throughout that fall camp period, spring ball, and you get to game week prep, and obviously Joe's got a relationship with him. It feels like everybody on the team has a story about Diego, has a relationship with him, and that's something I noticed with the team in general. And then we talked to MK about this, just how united. I mean, you guys are, and like, you wouldn't think how close Pavi would be with some of the walk-ons, but he is, and that's the kind of guy he is. So what have you learned from him, and how has he impacted the team this year? We obviously saw it last year, but just him and within that offense and helping the defense as well, because you guys, that momentum played out perfectly in Knoxville, where they scored coming out of the half, and then you guys locked up. Like that to me kind of embodied the team that you guys just play such good complementary football. Exactly.
I feel like with Diego, when you have him on your team, you're automatically going to get a competitive edge. I feel like throughout this year, I've definitely learned from him. He competes in everything he does, whether it be in the weight room, academics, the locker room, just dumb stuff, but like it translates to the field, So I feel like he's set that competitive edge throughout the whole team, and everybody's buying into it and believing in it. And I feel like even Coach Lee, every team meeting, he gives us different tidbits to take on to that week, and I feel like he's just giving us so much belief and energy in ourselves. And I feel like when you're out there on Saturday, why not play for guys like Diego? Why not play for guys like Coach Lee that believe in you so much? So I feel like just that competitive edge and that belief that Diego gives us has been very helpful to the team.
Yeah, it's so funny you talk about the competitive edge and Coach Lee, at Media Days just a few years back, and talking about how Vanderbilt's going to be the best program in the country, in time. And Diego, it's like him and Diego have said a lot of the same things, and that has almost allowed you guys on the team, not allowed, but it's kind of trickled throughout the team, right? Where maybe the early years under Coach Lee, there wasn't quite that full 100% buy-in, but it was obvious last year, obviously, because Joe could tell you about some of the early years. I'm sure y'all have talked about that, just that build. But now the buy-in, there's nobody that's not bought into this program.
Right. Yeah, man. everybody, even like you said, the walk-ons, man, our scout teams, and the guys that are out there playing. I just feel like everybody's bought in, everybody's believing in us, and even belief from you guys and Joe and all the alumni is just our fan base is just overwhelming support from everybody. And it's just like on Saturday we just go out there and play and know that we have that support, and it's just been helping us all year.
Yeah, one reoccurring theme that I've really noticed this whole season, and even last year too, but and Billy and I have talked about this a good bit, but there's so many good people in that locker room, including yourself and great staff members and stuff like that. And it's only a matter of time before a program like that sees success because of guys like you and Diego and Coach Lee and all the coaching staff and even the we appreciate everything that you guys do. It makes us on the outside, as former players and Billy in his role with 247, it's not a chore to come to games. It is like it is so fulfilling to see good people like yourself and on this team see success. But that's nothing but a credit to you guys. I mean, that's just who you guys are, who you guys are trying to be better each and every day, and that's so noteworthy there. So I just want to say that. But on a lighter note, I'll give you a scenario. You got weigh-ins tomorrow. You got to run 31 10s if you don't make a certain weight. You're 3 pounds underweight right now. What 2 Louisiana foods are you chowing down on the night before?
Oh, you kind of put me on the spot.
This should be easy, pal.
Yeah. All right. So I would say first, because I've just gotten this over Thanksgiving. I would say some homemade gumbo from either my grandma or my mom.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's man, is nothing that could beat that. And then let's see another one. I would probably
remember we got to put on weight. We got 3 pounds.
Yeah.
So
that was more taste. Because that's
Yeah. You can load up with rice.
Yeah, you could. And then I would say my grandma's crawfish etouffee. That's out of this world. That's one of my favorite dishes that she makes, and you can't really get that anywhere else. I've checked, so I'm just blessed to be from Louisiana.
Yeah.
So
well, speaking of that, man, like being from Louisiana, for those of you guys that out there that don't really know, like Louisiana is a little bit different when it comes to like the upbringing and stuff like that. And how has being a Louisiana guy kind of shaped you as a person and as a competitor?
Yep. So in Louisiana, and Joe, I know you know this. We're really not handed anything. We're really not given anything growing up. I know guys like in Texas, Georgia, those states are pretty I feel like they're developed in a sense, and the high schools are bigger, more resources, and all of that stuff. Me and my dad was just talking about this the other day. I feel like just me being from Baton Rouge, we're just not handing anything. We always had to earn everything we had, and I just feel like if you're a Louisiana animal, you just brought up a little different, and it really shows when you get to levels like this and levels like the NFL. So yeah.
Jordan, I got to go back to, it's on Saturday. You're in Knoxville. It's your return. And it's also a chance for you guys to beat Tennessee for the first time since 2018. But Clark had mentioned, and I think it was in the game broadcast, went back and rewatched and talked about how, he didn't make too much of the rivalry and didn't, did his best of calming you guys down and sort of just giving you guys a chance, because you're walking into a hornet's nest, a great environment. But obviously you guys settled into that game. What was that game like for you, going back to Knoxville and then getting the win, celebrating, and just kind of relishing that moment? I mean, that's probably a night that you guys would kill to go back to at any point in your life.
Man, yeah, it was very surreal. It was definitely a blessing for me to go back and just shoot, take it all in and like even like before the game, I was thinking about like my memories I had in Neyland. So it was surreal for me going in and playing some of my old teammates, competing with them again, and just getting that win meant a lot to me also. And just like that competitive edge that we hold as a team. Like everybody, like even Diego asked me the day before the game, he was like, "This personal for you, right?" And I was like, "Yes, sir, it is." And then he was just like, "I'm gonna play for you." And then even guys like Junior Sherrill. Junior Sherrill is from Nashville. He has a lot of teammates, and it's a bunch of guys from Nashville that have a lot of teammates that go to Tennessee, old teammates, and it's just I'm glad we got to get that win, and now we got something to talk about over the off season. Got some bragging rights, so I'm happy for that too.
Well, there's something to talk about right now with this team too, and obviously the college football playoff on the minds of everybody. It's kind of a crazy year in the playoff talk for you guys on the team, and we will obviously we know Pavia deserves the Heisman Trophy, but for the playoff talk for you guys, you don't know when you'll be playing. I think a lot of the bowl games, obviously, if you're the playoff, you're playing December 16th, I think is the date. They're around there mid-December, but unless obviously some of the buys and push back later, but then, some other the later bowls don't start till December 31st. So you don't know when you're going to be playing next. What's that like for you guys right now? And kind of the spot of, where are we going to be when's our next game?
Man, it's honestly just like Coach Lee said, I feel like we should take every week 1-0, and even this week it's more like a down week. Like we'll be practicing maybe a couple of days, and it'll be a down practice. And just I feel like we should attack all of our lifts the same, all of our academics the same. I just feel like we control what we can control. I feel like, and that's what we were going over the Tennessee week. Just focus on beating Tennessee that week and just letting it all sort itself out. So wherever God wants us to be, we'll either be in the playoff or we won't be happy, but I feel like we'll be satisfied with the bowl game, even if even like we know we've done our best to do what we can. So but I really want to be in there for sure.
Yeah, obviously that's the hope for Vanderbilt, and at the end of the day, I mean, Joe and I have talked about it. This looks like a playoff team. I mean, the last couple of weeks, Joe, we've talked all about it. So that's obviously the hope. But Jordan, I can't thank you enough, man. And Joe, thank you for setting this thing up. This is like the Baton Rouge duo here in the Louisiana.
Yeah, I think I mean, Jordan, how far away is Mandeville from Baton Rouge? About what, 50 minutes or so?
Yeah, 50 minutes, not even an hour.
Yeah, it's not even an hour. So we're not too far away. He was definitely more of an athlete than I was, but but yeah. So we're so blessed to have you here in Nashville, Jordan. We appreciate everything you're doing for the Commodores, and I appreciate your friendship, man. You're a hell of a young man.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate y'all.
There you have it. Jordan Matthews, junior cornerback for the Vanderbilt Commodores, joining us here on Joe. Let's just Star V podcast. Because Star V Sundays really limits us.
Man, we've deviated pretty good from the Sundays. We've shot things on Thursday, Wednesday, Monday, the 8th day of the week, whatever that would be called. We filmed it. So maybe it is the Star V podcast, but I need to trademark that. We need to trademark that so nobody steals it from us.
There we go. We'll put the trademark request in there. But no, back at it here on the Vandy 24/7 network, the Believe Podcast Network. Again, Joe Bulovas, former Vanderbilt kicker. I'm Billy Derrick. Joe, before we recap the Tennessee win, before we break down Vanderbilt's college football playoff chances, Pavia's Heisman chances, we've got a lot to get into with on your side of things. Obviously, coming into the Christmas season, Thanksgiving has passed by us. This is the time of year, Joe, where a lot of people, especially when it comes to their finances, some of their money, some of their planning, want to try to plan ahead of the new year. get that work done so you can take those, week or two off for Christmas. It's kind of the, it's like the exam week kind of, but once January hits, you're rocking and rolling with your planning. But how can people continue to seek you out, Joe, and also, continue to take advantage of your offer that you've got, which it's a pretty solid one.
Yeah, so just to recap again, I'm offering free financial planning review sessions from now, may extend it into February, but as of right now, just in from now to January. But what that looks like is comprehensive review planning. So we're going to take a look at everything under the hood, see what we're working with, where things can be improved on. So maybe some areas that are doing well, but we need to keep an eye on because everything does change from time to time. So where to find me is anywhere on my website. I have a contact section. You can contact me that way. My email with joe.bulovas@raymondjames.com. My work phone number is 615-645-6742. So I'm here to lend a hand wherever I can. I'm all ears, willing to help. One thing that does come up in these review sessions is actually protecting your family should the tragic thing happen, where that is you pass away or a loved one pass away and you have dependents. That's when you really need to take a look at your insurance and where it's covering you, where there may be some gaps. The last thing you need or would want to be in a position is when something tragic does happen and your loved ones are not taken care of. It's a very, very sad situation, and it's something that can be easily avoided with some due diligence. So that's one of the things that I really like to, put into focus of. This is very important. Is it everything that we need to take a look at? No, it's not. It's part of the bigger picture, but it's also very important. We want to make sure that your family is protected. So always have to have those conversations regarding around the best way to protect your family through the insurance route. So by all means, please contact me, get in touch with me. Even on the message board, I'm responsive there. So I'm happy to help out wherever I can.
Yeah, and like we talk about, whether you're building your future, in the immediate future or down the road, you're preparing for retirement. Joe, again, can guide you each step of the way, all while following a plan that's yours, easily customizable. You can create your own plan, and that's life well planned with Joe Bulovas with Bulovas Wealth Management of Raymond James. Again, his number 615-645-6742. RaymondJames.com/Bulovas Wealth Management. Joe mentioned the message board, Twitter. We try to get these posted out to Twitter as well. It could interact with us there. And again, I know a lot of these haven't been live. We've been doing some more longer form conversations with some players and some former players, and we're going to continue that. But we also do want to get back to some of that interactive, live feed stuff. So we'll probably get back to that eventually. But again, thank you, Joe, for your support, and thank you to everybody. Man, I think our viewership has improved with each one, Joe, and obviously with the wins, it's improved. So appreciate that. But we got a lot more to get into when it comes to Vanderbilt football. Tennessee obviously was not a match for Vanderbilt in that second half. Commodores take down the Vols 45-24 in Knoxville, improved to 10-2 on the season, first ever 10-win season in program history. There's just more history being made. I mean, it's the best season in Vanderbilt in program history. It's the best win in program history. I say it's the best win because it got you to 10 wins, right? That's why we kept saying each week, Joe, biggest game was because it was always to get to this sort of pinnacle for Vanderbilt football. Now we await, but man, what a performance. And obviously Pavia, his carry, 20 carries over 140 yards. Just what a performance from him on the ground. Obviously he had the 2 picks, and he was joking after the game. He was sorry about the 2 picks, but man, just for the way they bounced back in that game, I thought the defensive plan was almost flawless, especially in that second half, Joe. Clarkley credited that, and Clark, he had talked about, hey, we have not, in my tenure here, been necessarily prepared to face this Tennessee offense. And look, they got a ton of skill. Jordan talked about that. But Joe, the defensive plan was phenomenal. And the offensive line, man, they got it done again. Jordan White, offensive lineman of the week. Just another physical domination type game, type of effort for Vanderbilt. It hasn't been like that every week. Auburn was it got pretty iffy there, right? But
Right.
that was a win that embodied this team, I thought.
Yeah, one of the things that you find out about yourself as a team down the stretch is no matter what the situation is, can you find a way to win? And there's never been a game where they were out of the fight this entire season. So that becomes like a strong suit for everybody on that team. The constant belief is never wavering. We had Langston on, heck, it wasn't even a week ago now, but we'll call it a week. But he was talking about the unwavering belief, the atmosphere of the team, the camaraderie, the chemistry that they have. They were, they were down a little bit against Virginia Tech, and they go into the locker room at halftime, and it's like a party. They're not worried about coming back. It's like, all right, well, we missed a few steps here, but that's nothing. We're better than that. Go out and make it happen, and they did. They absolutely curb stomped Virginia Tech in the second half. They annihilated Tennessee on paper in the second half too. They've done this for a handful of games now, and it becomes a strong suit, becomes your identity that no matter what score is up on that scoreboard, reflected either way, Vandy's going to continue to fight, and they're going to continue to throw punches no matter what that score looks like. And every game that they played this year was meaningful. I really hope the committee does the right thing and gives us a chance. I think there's some stronger things at play, because you're going to have a hard time convincing me that some of these 3-loss teams deserve to be in over us, and some of these 2-loss teams deserve to be in over us, because quality of strength of schedule should mean something. And there's a few cats in that mix that should not be. There's a few dogs that do not hunt.
Yeah.
And I think there's some issues with the playoff right now and the selection committee. To be very honest, they've missed it in the past. I think there's bigger things in play here. But if we're going to sit here and put a Tulane or a James Madison in over us, then I am a bulldog. Like, what? Like, I'm not human. Like, in what world does that make any sense, right? Like, it just doesn't. So
Yeah.
and nobody's really, all the coaches aren't going to say that. The players aren't going to say that. They're going to be respectful. And I'm trying to be too, but there's no reason why Vandy shouldn't be in.
Yeah, look, I'm with you, Joe. I think Vanderbilt deserves to be in the playoff. The issue
and
is
Diego deserves to win the Heisman.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think both those things are true. When you look at it, and back to your comment there about how messed up the playoff system is, that this idea that we have to have the 5 highest ranked conference champions, that should not be a requirement. And we take that out. Let's rank the top 12 teams in the country and put them in the playoff. Have we thought of that? I mean, yes, it's about inclusion.
Whoa, that would make way too much sense, pal. That would make way too much sense. All right,
too much.
Simmer down.
Yeah, that's too good of an idea there. And look, I mean, got people around the country. Josh Pate hit on this, and people with the logical college football brains can understand that. But and Joe, I don't know what this obviously comes down to the conference affiliation and the AAC, and they need to be included, and the G5, some of the other conferences. What needs to happen is this needs to be expanded to 16 and stop there. I don't think it needs to be any higher than 16. And I think it'll be at 16 here soon. The group of 5, and this is somewhat off topic, but it pertains to Vanderbilt. The group of 5 needs to have their own tournament. And I think people have brought that up. People talked about that. That would, of course, eliminate that would be the top 16 teams between the Power 4 conferences. I mean, that's what it's about. And you make the point there of whether it's Tulane, JMU, North Texas, some of those teams. Joe,
yeah, whoever it's going to be, we've ran this experiment before when SMU went up to Penn State and they came back as bloodied as any team I've ever seen them. Like, we've run this experiment before. It doesn't work out too well.
Yeah. And look, Duke, if Duke wins the ACC championship over Virginia, they will not be in the playoff because they're not ranked. They're 7-5 right now. They're not ranked. There would still be 2 other Group of 5 teams or conference champs ranked ahead of them.
Right.
So
there's some madness going on.
That's how messy it's going to get. You could have a Notre Dame team miss out because you put JMU or Tulane ahead of them, both of them, which is just ridiculous. But either way, this is a tough year for any 10-2 team, honestly. I mean, you look at the 10 and
if I'm not mistaken, if I am, correct me here, has there been a 10-2 team that has not made the playoff?
No.
I mean, and we've got a lot of 10-2 teams right now. But at the same time, I don't remember a 10-2 team not getting in with the 12-team format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there was a scenario. I was talking to somebody that covers Missouri last year. Missouri went 9-3. They were on the cusp of going 10-2. And he was telling me how even if they went 10-2, he didn't think they were going to be a playoff team. So I think this was the year we didn't get last year. It just happened to be this year where you've got Oklahoma at 10-2, Alabama at 10-2, Notre Dame at 10-2, Miami at 10-2, Utah also there, Virginia is there, Tulane is there, but obviously they're a G5 school. So I think what this also comes down to, Joe, is, and I was talking about this with somebody after the game, that little trio of Oklahoma, Alabama, and Vanderbilt, I think those 3 teams are all fairly similar. I wouldn't even throw Texas in there because they have 3 losses. They lost to that Florida team. See ya. I mean, you're not even in the conversation. Oklahoma.
The committee was just dying to put them in, though.
Well, yeah, they're
just
dying. And if they pass Vanderbilt, that's that's a disgrace. Now I know they beat them. I know, and again, that's sort of the argument, the other side of it. But at some point, we have to look at a loss that's that bad to that Florida team.
Yeah, they couldn't have beat Florida at the time. Couldn't beat little school on the prairie of South Central Louisiana State College. They couldn't have beat anybody, and Texas got smashed by them.
Yeah.
So, I totally agree. You got to look at the quality of the wins, the quality of the losses. Because if you look at the Texas loss that we had, it's a 3-point loss, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Or somewhere in that time, that range. Yeah. I'm not exactly sure of the final score, but I know it's a 1-possession game.
Yeah, it was 3.
It was 3. You're telling me that Texas could move up more than they dropped from losing to Florida? Like that should not happen. We were, we were definitely a playoff looking team at that point in time, just rolling. Yeah. And it's just so messed up right now because there's almost like a double standard at times with these teams. They would absolutely love to have a Texas in. They would love to have a Notre Dame. Sorry, Billy. I know I can't be trash talking your team too much here.
This is one of the years where I'm fine with that. Notre Dame's won national titles. They were in the playoff last year in the national title.
That we can make room. They can, make room for Vandy. But yeah, man, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. This is why I don't like talking about hypotheticals because I go down a rabbit hole and I get passionate about them. Obviously, I want Vandy in there more than anybody out there, and I want to see them just run the table and see how far they can go. I think the playoff needs a Vanderbilt in, but they don't need a James Madison. They don't need a North Texas. Be very honest with who deserves to be in there. I hope the committee does that. I don't have much faith in their line of thinking, granted how they've put the rankings out this season at times. But I hope they make the right decision of putting Vandy in.
Yeah, and look, Clark spoke earlier today. Candace spoke earlier today. They had a press conference, and they will be going all out with the PR push. Because look,
hell, it's already going.
Yeah, it's already going. But Joe, you look at the last.
It has to.
The last 2 games, you've beaten a Kentucky team who I know they fell apart against Louisville, but you beat two SEC teams by quite a wide margin. And the committee has talked about playing well at the right time, right, and strength of schedule.
Well, guess what Louisville did to Miami.
Exactly. So you look at that, and another criteria, Joe, is teams that either have lost their head coach because of how stupid the calendar is, or a player, right? Jordan Travis at Florida State. What do you do with Ole Miss? They don't have their head coach, the man that calls plays for that offense, and also their entire offensive staff. So,
well, that's a great point. I played at Alabama while Pete Golding was there. I just missed Lane. He had just taken the Florida Atlantic job by the time I got there. We'll leave that as it is. He obviously left Ole Miss to go to LSU in the middle of a playoff run. Golly, you got to have a hard time convincing me that was the right move. But hey, do what you got to do. But Pete's a really good coach. He has a great defensive mind. He's a great recruiter. I think Ole Miss will be very, very good. They might not be a playoff team every year, but they're going to be solid. And I think they're going to have their work cut out for them in this playoff. Because I don't know the exact number of offensive coaches that he took with him, Billy. But how many did he take?
Well, he took Charlie Weiss Jr., who is sort of the second half of Lane's brain in that offense. Who Lane calls the plays, but he's a lot of the the part of that, and I think there's a couple others. So I think Golding was able to keep a couple, but the big hitters there are in Baton Rouge.
If you're going to have an offensive GA calling the plays versus last week when you had Lane Kiffin, I'm just going to say, put the word out there. That's a drop off and a half.
Oh, no doubt. And there's coaches, there's former coaches, there's ADs on the committee, obviously, and that's in the criteria. If a coach is not there anymore, and obviously the player,
if your offensive staff isn't there,
yeah. That's like Vanderbilt, Joe. That's like in that offense with Chambliss, and he's sort of built into that offense. He runs it a lot, and they've got some great schemes. That's like taking Beck and Kill away. And that wouldn't be good. I think. Yeah. And Altman. You would take Altman, right, too. So that'd be a brutal spot. I'd be betting against the other team.
That's a really good comparison. Job well done on that one. But yeah, if you want to take the offensive coordinator and the offensive staff away from Ohio State, that's probably a little bit different than a team that's so reliant on your offensive staff. Because at Ohio State, you've probably got a former head coach as the backup OC or the quarterback's coach, who's a big time position coach somewhere else and has or coordinator position somewhere else. But for an Ole Miss, I think that makes a lot of sense. If they get dinged for losing basically their whole identity as a team overnight, which I hate it for the players. It's really hard to have your coach be there one day, tell you a whole lot of things, and then be gone the next. And it was all just fluff, for lack of better words, and not get too involved in it. I hate it for the players. That's a really tough spot for them to be in.
It is. And so you're going to take that into effect. But again, we'll learn tomorrow night where Vanderbilt stands. Obviously, that'll tell a big story. Do you move up to 13? I find it unlikely you move up 2 places, but we'll see. This will be a big indicator of where Vanderbilt's at in the college football playoffs. So we'll see about that. But Joe, the last part of this, obviously, Pavia's Heisman chances. I don't even think whatever the odds say, I'm not even looking at those. He deserves it.
He deserves to run away with it. That deserves to be, hoisted in not even McGugin, but in the stadium, in a glass case for everyone to see. That would be so big for Vanderbilt University, not just the football program, not just athletics as a whole, but that would be phenomenal for this city. That there's a big reason why I came back to Nashville, and that was because of Vanderbilt. But Nashville needs Vanderbilt, and I never really knew or kind of saw it until really this year, where there's such a buzz around the city about the program, and he deserves to come home with the Heisman from New York City.
Yeah,
That fair and square.
3,000.
You tell
Yeah,
me any other guy on that list that has done what that cat has done and done it the way that he's done it with everybody out on the outside not believing in this guy. And he just suited up every week and did the impossible. And now here he is at the end of the regular season. And I could not be more excited for him as his friend, as well as, doing the podcast here for all of Vandy, for him to see this success, man. He deserves every second of it. He deserves to bring that Heisman Trophy back to Vandy.
absolutely. I mean, 3,192 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, but you can't forget about the rushing numbers. I mean, you just can't. You look at the Tennessee game, 20 carries, 165 yards. You go back to the Auburn game, 112 yards on the ground, and I'm trying to pull up the total rushing numbers, 826 for 9 touchdowns. Mendoza hasn't done that. Sayin hasn't done that. Marshall Reed, I don't think is far behind that, but I think he sort of hurt a lot of his chances that loss to Texas. For Vanderbilt to finish, go into Neyland, win this game, and for Pavia to do what he did on the ground. I know, again, it wasn't the best day through the air, but to do what he did on the ground, he deserves it. So again, I don't know that there's a whole lot else more to say in regards to that.
No.
And people say, hey, Sayin and Mendoza are playing each other in the Big Ten title. That's for the Heisman Trophy. And, I get that. But you put Julian Sayin or Mendoza in this Vanderbilt offense. Is this Vandy team 10-2? I mean, I don't know if you could put another quarterback
I don't know. I don't know. That's a huge hypothetical, but one thing that you hit on too is, I guess maybe you didn't say it directly, but what a guy brings to a program should matter in this Heisman voting. Like, a guy that Diego's play really resembles is Johnny Football. Now, let's be very honest about that. A&M was very average until Johnny Manziel got to A&M, got the start, and started making a bunch of noise, knocking off Alabama at the time. A&M, the way I know this is because I was an A&M fan growing up, and that was back before you could see every game on TV, so you had to hope that the TV provider was going to show it on Saturday. And so maybe we got 1 or 2 games a year. And growing up in LSU country, by golly, they made it almost impossible to watch anybody else other than the LSU Tigers. So they went 6-6 the year before, and they had Ryan Tannehill and Mike Evans and Von Miller on that team. And then they come to the SEC. Nobody gives them a chance. But what Johnny Manziel did for A&M is he put them on the map. They knocked down the entire stadium, built a new one the year after his Heisman. Everything that A&M kind of is these days for football wise, Johnny kickstarted. That's what Diego has done to a certain degree with the help of, alongside Coach Lee and Barton and the entire staff and all the rest of the players. And I think it's more of a collective effort here at Vandy. Absolutely. But what he's been able to do for a program and a city, I think that should matter too in the voting.
Yeah.
Because you tell me another guy in college football has truly transformed the way Vanderbilt football has been. And I give Coach Lee the most credit out of anybody for doing that, because he laid the groundwork and he is the backbone and the front guy for everything that we've done. And he deserves all the credit in the world. But Diego, as a player, did something that nobody else in this Heisman campaign or this Heisman candidacy has done. And I think that should mean something.
Well, I think it means something too, Joe, that Paul Feinbaum earlier today said on his show, as of today, Pavia has my Heisman vote. So take that for what it's worth. A guy that, before the season, I don't think Vanderbilt fans are the biggest fans of Paul Feinbaum, but, before the season, was kind of laughing. He had Pavia on his show. It was kind of, he was laughing right in front of his face. And Pavia gave him the death stare that went viral on Twitter. But I wonder what Coach Saban thinks about the Heisman campaign. I think that would be a really good take to get from him. Let's get him
Maybe
on.
I'll call him up.
Yeah. Man, what a season, what a performance to close it out, Joe. And obviously, I've told people that I'm a little under the weather. It was cold up there on Saturday, but Vandy got it done. And
yeah, Billy went swimming in the river afterwards. He was so excited.
Man, it was the type of game, it was kind of weird how, had those 2 early picks, and then, you get to halftime, you score right before the half. You had that huge penalty Tennessee did that I thought was big. Look, refs are going to call that in that spot, and Pavia did a great job of drawing it. I think that's an underrated part of his game. He knows how to draw a lot of those and throw it, kind of time it upright. But Joe, I just think for them to battle through some of that adversity early, that's very similar to what happened in Tuscaloosa. And this team fought through. Pavia said that after the game. He said, how do I take that experience and learn from it? How do I take the first half woes in Texas and learn from that? They stretched that out. They learned from it. And I thought it was a mature performance by the team. They're the older team. Vandy's the oldest team in the league, Joe. Tennessee's the youngest team. I think in their head, they knew at one point Tennessee was going to crack. And when Pavia ran it in to go 38-24, they cracked, and Vanderbilt knew they had them.
Yeah.
And it was a wrap.
Yeah. When he scampered in for the touchdown, you got a sense of it's done.
Yeah.
It's done. As long as we don't do anything catastrophic, these guys won the game. But, when you play at Tennessee or a team that's kind of struggling with an identity and a success kind of pattern for the season, you find out what the guys are made of by their breaking point. What does it take to break you?
What does it take to break you? Yeah.
Coach Saban always said that, and it was so true. I mean, that's true with anything in life. What does it take to break you? Tennessee, it took them a little bit longer than I thought. I thought if we hit them in the mouth fairly early, that they would just kind of go home and pack it in. They're like, well, we're not in the playoff. It's Vandy, whatever. Let them have one. But no, they continued to fight, and they didn't break until we just outmanned them. We outgunned and outmanned them, and I'm so happy that we got those guys got to see that, because when I was there, we didn't beat Tennessee when I was at Vandy, and these guys deserve to have that moment, to have a season like they've had, a moment to go cap it off the regular season in Knoxville. So there's nobody more deserving than those guys in the locker room. The guys that I play with, congratulations, y'all deserve all the credit, and Coach Lee more than any.
Oh, no doubt.
What a special moment for him and his family. I see his little boy Jack on the sidelines when they were with the camera. I was like, man, that's going to be a really special moment after the game with his three kids and his wife, Miss Allison. So I'm so happy for that family. They deserve to have all the great celebratory activities afterward. I'm sure I would have loved to be in that locker room after. Holy cow!
Yeah, walking by it on the way to the press room just reeked of the cigar smoke, and I heard, Joe, they snuck the cigars in, and you can imagine.
It ain't hard to do that. It ain't hard to do that, man. We did that all the time in Alabama.
Well, in Knoxville, I know, so you never know. You never know if they're checking the bags or whatever, but no, I think you mentioned Clark Lee and his family, and there's so many other people that invested in this program that and Candace talked about today. There's your return on investment this season, 10-2, never happened. So anybody that was looking for anything else from this program, or looking for affirmation of, hey, can you guys, can you do it after Pavia? That's kind of the talk. And, we'll see. But I think they did it now, and they got it done. And this was year 5. And Clark has talked about how it's taken longer than he might have originally thought or wanted to, but they've gotten here. And just a couple of days before, Joe, he got his extension publicly announced. The Vandy fans were waiting on forever. Obviously, Clark had admitted that himself too, that, got it done and got a huge commitment Saturday morning. He said it was his wife's birthday that same night that the extension was announced. So they were able to celebrate. But then you talk about relief and just kind of that sense of, hey, and Clark does a really good job, in the post game pressers all the time. We try to get him to kind of just look at what he's accomplished, and he'll talk about it. He'll say, yeah, man, 10-2, great, but we're not done. He does a great job of, you get to that sort of the top of the mountain that some Vandy fans think, or the outside might think, this is the ceiling. This is never happening again. Clark Lee's thought is next year, let's get to 11. Let's get into the playoff if we don't get in that. Like, that's his mindset, and I think that's played a big role in their success, Joe.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, man. The way that he leads young men is really inspiring, but he's a guy that leads by example. He's a guy that you want to follow, you want to be more like as a person. But regarding like the transformation and taking it even further than this season, this has been his goal all along. He didn't take this job from Notre Dame to come down here and go 6-6 or just get to a bowl game. His mission has been very, very clear to build a championship level team here in Nashville. And he's done that. I think if the committee gives Vandy the opportunity to go fight for what's theirs, I think they'll actually handle business. That's literally what I think. I think they're going to be national champions. I think they can beat anybody because they play differently than everybody else. But Coach Lee has always said, we are here to win championships. And if you're not here on the same page, then there's the door. Because and it takes a special guy to answer that call. When we have recruits, just kind of thinking about and addressing the elephant in the room, you're asking high-level transfers and high-level recruits out of high school to come to a program that hasn't won the past few years. And it takes a special guy who is talented but has the right mindset to put my education first, to put building something special ahead of going to a school that is already winning and will win regardless of if I come or not. We bring people in because we value them, and they choose Vanderbilt because they value what Vanderbilt is and who Coach Lee is. That was one of my biggest things or the reasons why I came to Vandy. I came because of what Vanderbilt stood for and the vision that Coach Lee had. And granted, man, I was just a glorified golfer on a football field, and I didn't get hit nearly as much as other guys. Usually if I was getting hit, there's a problem. But I chose Vanderbilt because of what it stood for and the guys and the people involved in the program. And those people who were there then and have been added since had that same mission and vision that Coach Lee has always preached about. So, again, like I've said a million times, so much fun to see those guys have success, players and staff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, happy for guys like you and Ben and former players and guys like Jordan Matthews who are former players but are now on staff, and Javon Hay and Earl Bennett. I mean, it goes on. And obviously the fans that invested their time, the fans that made that trip, had the celebration of a lifetime. And Vanderbilt gets it done, get to 10-2, and we'll see. We await tomorrow night. The college football playoff rankings will be announced again. That you still have conference championship weekend this weekend. We'll see what happens. Next Tuesday, that'll be the final rankings announcement. I'll just say this: Wednesday could be a big day for Vanderbilt as well, Vanderbilt fans. And so,
are you foreshadowing something?
Maybe, potentially. But man, just a great time to be a Commodore. And Joe, I can't thank you enough. That's for the regular season. That's a wrap. But obviously we'll still have, and we'll figure out kind of a content schedule. But man, I can't thank you enough for this season and you hopping on board. We talked before the season, and you want it all in. You just you want to talk about the team. You want to invest your time and your money to go to games. And there's a lot of other people like you, right? That maybe sitting around going, man, how do we become a part of that as well? And I think the more we do that, the more this thing grows. So again, I can't thank you enough for what you've done this regular season.
Well, man, thank you, Billy. It's truly been a blast. I never really thought I'd be on a podcast and be hosting something like that, but it kind of forced me to do my homework on the teams that we play, but it keeps me connected to the game still. And as a former football guy, man, it's hard to scratch that itch, but being able to do this each week and have those guys come on that give really
Mhm.
great perspective on things because they're in it still, in whatever capacity that looks like, it's so much fun. So it's been a
Yeah.
blast, man. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned kind of studying up on other teams. That was one of the more fun parts about it. We don't get to preview any more games. We'll have the bowl game, of course, but in that meat of the season, kind of recapping the game and then previewing that next week's game, and that was a blast. And can't wait for next year, but can't wait for you guys, of course, throughout bowl season. We're gonna have some recruiting stuff to talk about, but that'll do it for another episode. Again, we'll see you guys. We're just gonna start calling this the Star V podcast because number one, I think these guests are really good, Joe. I think people like those, so we're gonna continue those. Not that we won't go live on Sunday, but we'll keep this thing rolling and pop in whenever we want, and we'll let you guys know. But for Joe Bulovas, I'm Billy Derrick. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Star V podcast.